Nodcry's literally right around the corner, and along with that is coming Llama. Llama? Either way, she's a Dendro Catalyst character from the Frost Moon Scions who specializes in a Lunar Bloom team art type. She shreds resistance, boosts damage as a support, and her core mechanics rely on a brand new feature called Moonsign stacks, and also Bloom reaction frequency, of course. Now, in terms of lore, she's the Saintess of the Frost Moon Scions, possessing a dual human-deer form. She does play a pivotal role in the Song of the Welkin Moon storyline, but today I'm here to kind of give you an example of what she's all about in combat. As many people have told me before, I'm not the best guide maker, so I don't really want this to come across as a guide. It's kind of more of a Lauma for dummies, if you will. So with Lauma's passive skill, all bloom reactions triggered by characters are converted into Lunar Bloom, and the base damage is increased based on Lauma's EM, or Elemental Mastery. Now, because she's a Nodcry character, the entire team's moon sign levels also increase by 1, but each Nodcry character is increased by 1. One of the coolest things about Lauma is, if you use the charge attack, she transforms into this deer form or spirit envoy, allowing her to sprint continuously for up to 10 seconds at the cost of regular stamina. Now, while in deer form, she gains increased resistance to interruption, and she can perform up to 2 consecutive jumps by consuming additional stamina. We got double jumps in deer form. Now, for Lauma's E skill, or elemental skill, it activates Frostgrove Sanctuary, and the effects differ based on what input you use. So it's pretty basic here. The tap E deals AoE dendro damage, and if you hold the E, whenever you possess Verdant Dew, it consumes all stored dew to unleash 1 instance of AoE dendro damage, 1 additional AoE dendro damage instance, which counts as Lunar Bloom, and it grants 1 stack of Moonsong per Verdant Dew consumed. You can get a maximum of 3 stacks per hold attack. Now, for Verdant Dew, when a character in the party triggers a Lunar Bloom reaction, they generate 1 Verdant Dew every 2.5 seconds. For 2.5 seconds as well. Triggering another Lunar Bloom reaction refreshes the effect's duration. Now, for Moonsong, when consuming Verdant Dew during a held elemental skill cast, Lauma accumulates stacks of Moonsong, which enhances the damage of Bloom, Hyper Bloom, Burgeon, and Lunar Bloom reactions. It's a lot. Additionally, when Lauma's elemental skill or Frostgrove Sanctuary hits enemies, it applies a 10-second debuff that reduces their Dendro and Hydro res. Now, the Sanctuary that's summoned by her elemental skill actually follows the active character. Think like Nilu's Triple E, and it deals Dendro damage to enemies within its range every 2 seconds. For Lauma's elemental burst, or Q, when casting her elemental burst or consuming Moonsong stacks, Lauma gains Pale Hymn, which creates a field effect. Whenever a party member triggers Bloom, Hyper Bloom, Burgeon, or Lunar Bloom reactions, 1 stack of Pale Hymn is consumed to boost the reaction's damage based on Lauma's elemental mastery. And additional stats can be consumed, it just depends on how many enemies have been hit by it. Now, this has an additional effect, of course. If Lauma possesses Moonsong stacks or gains Moonsong within 15 seconds after casting her burst, she'll consume all Moonsong stacks to convert them into additional Pale Hymn stacks. Now, as for the conversion rate, each Moonsong stack consumed grants 6 stacks of Pale Hymn. And of course, it can only be triggered once per elemental burst cycle, including the 15-second window after casting. Now, let me go over the Moonsign system for you real quick. So, Nascent Gleam's activated with 1 Nodcry character in the party. This grants critical hit capabilities to Bloom, Burgeon, and Hyper Bloom reactions triggered by any party members. An Ascendant Gleam is activated with 2 Nodcry characters in the party. Now, Lauma obviously does primarily synergize with Dendro and Hydro teammates, and she amplifies Bloom and Lunar Bloom reactions. A very basic core rotation for Lauma would be you use the hold E to accumulate Moonsong stacks and reduce enemy Dendro and Hydro res, and then just follow up with her elemental burst to deploy the combat field around her and provide damage buffs for Bloom, Lunar Bloom reactions. Let's go over a bit of information here in regards to one of her best teams existing in the game right now. That'd be Nahida, Nilu, Kokomi, and Lauma. Instead of Kokomi though, I am gonna put Aino in here just for the extra Nodcry character. So what you can do is like Nahida's ultimate and then E ability. Nilu just triple E, get that field around you. And then for your Hydro sustain, whether it's Kokomi or Aino, just E, just get some extra Hydro damage in there, Hydro application. And then for Lauma, you just hold E, get the field set up, and then you can just on-field attack with her to trigger a ton of Lunar Bloom damage. You can cast the Elemental Burst for additional buffs as well, of course, but you want to make sure you're staying on-field to do normal attacks to maintain the damage cycle, basically. In terms of our artifact sets, the best in slot is definitely the Silca Moon Serenade, but there are alternatives that you can pre-farm for right now, so Deepwood would be a decent option. And coming alongside the Silca Moon Serenade, there is also Night of the Skies Unveiling, would be a good enough artifact set to use with her too. Now, you really just want to pump Elemental Mastery on this character, genuinely, for the Sands EM, for the Goblet EM, for the Circlet EM, and as for substats, you want to prioritize Energy Recharge until you hit a good enough amount to where you have your burst every cycle, and secondary, you you guessed it, Elemental Mastery. Same with the weapon. You really want to focus Elemental Mastery as a main focus, but if you don't have any good EM weapons, you can use energy recharge weapons. Best in slot is obviously going to be the Nightweaver's Looking Glass. It's her signature weapon, but a strong alternative would be 1,000 Floating Dreams, which is Nahida's signature weapon. There are a couple of decent 4-star options too. You can use the Black Marrow Lantern or even Sacrificial Fragments. Sac Frag is going to be good if you don't have any of the other weapons. You'll be absolutely fine. Now, in terms of team compositions, there's pretty much 2 types of teams that you want to be using with Llama. Basically, a Nilou Bloom team, which is very high investment. It'd be Llama, Nilou, then you can either go with Kokomi or Aino, and then for the 4th slot, Nahida or Baiju. Pretty high investment no matter how you look at it. But then the second team is a Hyper Bloom team. So you can use Llama for Dendro, Singshou for off-field Hydro application, Nahida as the Dendro support. You could even use Baiju, but Nahida would be goated here. She's great for Hyper Bloom. And then Kuki Shinobu is the Electro trigger and also healer if you need it. Let's talk about the constellations. I'm going to give you a very dumbed down version of these constellations, or at least the important ones. Constellation 1, when a Lunar Bloom reaction is triggered within 20 seconds after using this skill, it heals the active character scaling based on Llama's max HP and Elemental Mastery, and reduces Diaform stamina consumption by 40% during the duration. C2 is the recommended if you pull for constellations. It's by far one of the best constellations in general. The Elemental Burst damage bonus significantly increases, and at Ascendant Gleam level, which is 3 Nodcry characters in the team, it provides a plus 40% damage bonus to Lunar Bloom reactions. Overall, the DPS sustainability is just crazy with this character. C3 and C5 are just typical boost to talent levels. C4 reduces the energy requirement, though the character inherently has no significant energy issues, to be honest. And C6 achieves significant damage improvements while maintaining overall character balance. I say that she is an incredibly strong character, but most C6s are absolutely busted, right? It transforms Llama into a versatile combatant capable of simultaneously fulfilling healing, buffing, and main DPS roles. She's a jack of all trades and a master of, well, a couple of them actually. Her mechanics might pose kind of a learning curve, especially for new players. Might take some time to master, but honestly, I recommend looking up some proper guides after you've watched this and got like a TLDR Llama for Dummies. If you still have questions, go watch other guide makers that are far more invested in actually learning the character's kits and synergies to learn more about her, because they will do a much better job at going into the in-depth details than I will. But hopefully that was enough just to give you a bit of an insight into Llama and what she's all about.